you were out in the lobby, you got the books. First, sorry about this, I just want to show you again the book by Hawk Koch, Magic Time. He's written a wonderful memoir, and he's also the producer of Primal Fear, which is our next show. And then we have the star of Primal Fear, and also the writer, director, and star of
Motherless Brooklyn.
Motherless Brooklyn. Won't you, Edward Norton? Well, it's very interesting. I've seen this movie now twice, and in trying to find a way in, to draw you out about it, it occurred to me, there's a beautiful sequence in the jazz club, when the trumpet man is playing his theme for Laura, and I thought, yeah, it's what I love about this movie is very deep and sweet like jazz, and it seems that jazz is probably something that informs the way you tackled the story when you were adapting Jonathan Lethem's novel, and just the kind of the way you approach the character. I wonder how true is that?
I think it's a chicken and the egg thing. I think once we decided to set the film in the 50s,
yes,
jazz was the natural musical landscape for it, and Jonathan's book is set in the 90s. It's a very different story. We took the character from the book and grafted it into a story of my making about New York in the 50s, and Jonathan was really into that idea of sending his terrific detective into a different adventure, but he had written a bit in the book about the effect of music, the relationship between music and Lionel's head. And I love that idea, but we needed to do it with music that was appropriate at the time. And I love jazz from that period. And I think if there's any music that was ever Tourettic, it's Bob. And I think it felt like an organic. It just felt like an organic relationship,
Yeah, it's fascinating that you took the story back in time, because you also, that meant that you mythologized the infamous Robert Moses, who built all those bridges and kind of strangled New York with its expressways, and you mythologized him as Moses Randolph here. And I wondered, I wanted to draw you out just about that aspect of it, and then I'm going to ask you about how you developed the character, Anyway, just first about Moses Randolph, and what was it that attracted you to that character?
A racist property developer who's ruining the world.
Yeah.
West LA. So honestly, I finished the script by about 2012, and my inspirations were earlier and deeper than Our Insane Clown President. But let me put it this way: I think that noir is a tradition in American cinema that's got kind of a fun, let's call it, there's a B movie kitsch version of the noir detective and all that, but the best of it, the really what I call the serious, the literary almost aspect of noir in American life, I think is a very bracing and a very healthy impulse to say, hey, America has a narrative that we all are invested in, that we take a certain amount of pride in, and that we trust. It's a system on some level we trust. But noir says, hang on a second, you know, we're going to peel the corner back and remind you that underneath that mainstream American narrative is another thing that's going on, a shadow narrative. And there are things going on, implementations of power, that are dangerous to us if we don't understand that they're under there. And if they're going on out of sight, that's how we get hurt. That's how people get hurt. And I think that the best of those films actually have tended to come up in American culture in times when we're getting very uncomfortable with the disconnect between who we say we are and what we see going on around us. And I think that I've been very affected by films, not just noir films like Chinatown, which Hawk worked on, but you know, films like Reds or even Unforgiven, which is, I think, a very counter narrative to the Western thing. I think that films that look at the American character and the shadow side of it have been meaningful. And I think that Moses Randolph to me is, you know, it's like Charles Foster Kane. It's not important in some ways whether it's based on one or two or three specific real people. Right. It's a distillation. He was to me a distillation of the idea of the way power gets expressed in a dangerous way.
Right.
And it's thrilling.
Yes.
That we get this, that Edward got this movie made, so these kinds of movies can still get made.
Absolutely, yes. And with respect to, you know, the shadow side of character, I mean, the one great thing that we're showing, you know, Motherless Brooklyn with Primal Fear is that there is a kind of impromptu affinity between Aaron/Roy and, you know, and Lionel. And I want to draw you out about that, and then we're going to, yes.
Well, did you want to say something?
Well, yeah, it'll be a good step for that. I think that you know, this film obviously has a thread in it about empathy.
Yeah.
I think about the importance of the heroic value of caring for other people, and I think Lionel. The beauty and the genius of Jonathan Letham's, this character he created, is that on page one, you feel empathy for him. And I hope we captured that in the first 3 minutes. If you can engage an audience's empathy, you can go on. You can take people on quite a carpet ride. You know, if people feel empathy, and with a character, they'll go a long way with him. But I think when Primal Fear obviously has a dimension of that, and I think we thought at the time the only reason I got that part in some measure, I think, was that I thought that I remember thinking, like, well, the only way that you can get like a slick lawyer like Richard Gere to actually care about this guy is if he grabs him by the balls, metaphorically speaking, with sympathy. And I remember thinking, well, what really makes you sympathetic for someone? What makes you feel empathy immediately for someone?
Okay, so
wait. That was, yeah.
So I have to take you back, as I said, there'd be a little surprise. I have to take you back to the beginning of 1995, and we got a call. We were looking for someone to play opposite Richard Gere, and we had tried a whole bunch of the stars, young stars at that time. And our casting lady, Deb Aquila, who was head of casting, and Trish Wood, her partner, were scouring the country looking for, I think they said they looked for over 2,500 men, boys, to play this part. And it's the morning of the screen test. Edward has been brought out, and Deb said, "Oh, he's great." And I walked into the trailer, and there's this kid who I had total empathy for, because he stuttered and he was from Kentucky. And I introduced myself, and I said, "We're going to bring you out onto the set in a few minutes." because before the screen test, he had to audition in New York. And the ladies who did the audition are here tonight. And Deb and Trish, you want to come on down?
Right.
Come on, hurry up. Hurry up. They, as I said, Deb was head of casting at Paramount, did a whole bunch of other movies, but she and Trish have gone on and done many, many films since then. So there's a surprise. Trish Wood.
Yeah.
Trish Wood.
You guys tell the story. We'll stand over here.
Oh my goodness.
Like this is your life.
No, this is your life. Where to start?
Tell the story.
Went to New York. It should have been the first stop. It was the last stop. It's my hometown. I'm from Brooklyn. We have an open call, sort of. About 60 people scheduled. He comes in early in the morning. Remember what time it was?
No.
Yeah, it was about 9:15.
Okay.
Yeah. Early in the morning. And in walks this young man who completely did his homework, got his backstory, went from the actor playing Roy, playing Aaron, playing Roy, got the layer cake, and left. And I called Trisha, and I called my assistant in from outside and said, I need to go to sleep. I need to go back to my hotel because I've completely lost perspective. This was 2012. You were number 2012.
No? Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I did. Yeah, and went back, got a little rest, and asked Edward to come back the next day, and he did. And then I called Greg Hoblet and Hawk Koch and Gary Lucchese and said, please, one of you get on a plane. Greg got on a plane. And we had that reading, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I do remember looking up and thinking, I don't know this young man. Greg Hoblet is crawling on the floor, if you remember that. He is now looking up at both of us. And we're doing the scene, Laura Linney, I believe it was that scene. And I'm looking into the France and McDormand's, it was one of the other. And I'm looking into this young, I don't know him.
And you know where he was really
met
from? Or what,
No, I didn't know where he was
We
really
didn't
from.
know.
We didn't know.
We didn't know.
And I remember thinking specifically, and I told her this when I got back, that we were never going to get out of there alive because he was the real deal. And it was like, he's either this genius that we have come to know, or he's the real deal and we're never going to get out of there. We got out of there alive, and he got flown in for a screen test, and I'm going to let Trisha tell the rest of this.
Well, there's not much more except that the audition, the actual original audition tape, the VHS, back to the camera and the VHS
Did you know
tapes, we'd sent Deb's other assistant to New York. I was the actual casting assistant. We sent the administrative assistant to New York, and it was her first time taping auditions. So she set up the camera, but she set it up in the widest shot possible.
No, I'm with him, right? And we're doing the scene, and out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, why is she over there? Does she have a remote?
But she's just
Because the
gross.
camera's all the way over there.
And she's
You
just
couldn't
gross
see it.
in the
No.
audition.
And she's like this.
And nothing else happens. So all this stuff was sent back to me, and I was the assistant who's in charge of dubbing. So I had 5 VCRs set up, and I'm dubbing the auditions, and I'm watching, and I'm thinking, oh, she's going to zoom in. This is an important part. Yeah, she did use that when it happens. And this is like a Sunday night at 10 p.m. I've got 4 classic couriers waiting to take auditions to various producers and executives, and I don't have a way to stop them or whatever, so I just put them in envelopes.
It's on its way to him and Gary.
Send them out. So 9:15 the next morning, Gary Casey calls her.
And says, hi. So, who's this kid? And I was like, well, Edward Norton. And it's on the tape. Where? this screen, and there's this amazing human just about there. Right?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the positive.
Right. Now understand. Thanks, girls. Thanks, ladies. Now, what you have to understand, we're just going to show a portion of the test. It's 3 minutes long, and it's Richard Gere is actually doing the offstage dialogue. Remember, we've never seen this kid. You've never seen this kid. And he's going to be Aaron, this kind of sympathetic kid from Kentucky with a stutter, and then you'll see what happens. So let's run the tape.
What a great preview for the next. Well, with this in mind and thinking of Motherless Brooklyn, I'm thinking, all right, here you are, adapting, writing, directing, and there's a wonderful thing if you Google it related to Dropbox and how Edward Norton used the app of Dropbox to stay in very good communication vigorously with all the different departments and stuff. So you were able to organize this movie very thriftily. But I'm thinking, okay, you've got the thrift, you've got the organization, you've worked all that up, and then you've got to be Lionel. You've got to basically take us into that empathy zone. You've got to direct all these wonderful actors. You've got a killer cast here. I'm just wondering how you handled that, the business of giving such a performance in the middle of having to carry the picture of the director.
I'm not being facetious when I say this or trying to downplay it. It's a lot, but it's been done. I mean, it's not. A 25-year-old kid named Orson Welles made a pretty great movie.
You're right.
That he wrote and directed and did a lot of cool shots in, and plays a guy from youth to his death.
True.
And Spike Lee. Well, one of the definitive films of my coming of age was Do the Right Thing, and I remember thinking, like, look, this guy's 27, he's written and directed and produced a movie about his own neighborhood, and it's this great commentary on the American character. And when things like that, that film reset, that was the Citizen Kane for my crowd. That it really was like, I remember when Phil Hoffman and I worked with Spike on 25th Hour, we talked about how much that film set the aspirational bar for us.
Right.
And I think you know what you're taking on when you get into it, and you have to if you've done it a few times, you kind of know you know what the dynamics are that are required. And I think the biggest challenge on this was not acting and directing in it. It was more that we only had 46 days to shoot it, Motherless Brooklyn, and we did it on a pretty tight indie budget.
I want to stop you a second because for all of you out there, I've been fortunate enough to work with some pretty talented people, and there's some good directors and actors and writers, and then there's some really good writers, directors, and actors, and then there's the special. I don't want to say genius, but there are the people who can multitask in a way that most of us can't and understand all of it.
Right.
And Edward and Warren Beatty and Barbara and people like that are way beyond. And I was lucky enough to produce a movie that he directed called Keep the Faith. And I watched someone who, again, wrote, directed, produced with me, and starred in another movie.
Right.
And so I know all of you here are very fortunate because there aren't many people who get to see someone like this genius.
We had more money and time to make the Rabbi Priest joke into a romantic comedy than we did to make this big New York epic. And,
but because you had made that first, you at least had a better idea.
Oh yeah,
what you were going to go through.
But the part of the answer to your question is I went to a cast of my New York cohort of actors who, to be honest, I think you know, in our circles, like, there's still this kind of, honestly, slightly overhyped romance with the idea of the method actor and the intuitive actor and everything. And I went to actors, like, basically saying, no method actors on this movie. I need, like, theater actors, stagecraft pros. We're gonna get 3 takes at just about every setup. I need people who can come ready to rock.
Yeah.
No time for preciousness, no time for notes. Like, this was the, like, method actor band film. And everyone in this film is a stage veteran who I knew how to show up ready to rock, needing very little from me, and that's how you get it done.
Yeah, right.
You know.
There you go. I guess there was a famous story of Marlon Brando asking Laurence Olivier, you know, how did you direct yourself in Hamlet? And I realized that, well, get a stand-in who can act. You know, and I wondered, you know, you're surrounded with so many wonderful talents. I wondered, was anybody spelling you, or you just had to all come in? Just
No, it's just, I mean, look, I had made a film with Dick Pope called The Illusionist. Dick is one of the great cinematographers alive. Yeah, Dick has shot every Mike Leigh film, and Dick has shot beautiful period films, like The Illusionist, like Mr. Turner, which he was nominated for, on tight Mike Leigh and his budgets.
Yes.
And he's an old documentary filmmaker too. I trust his eye, and I also kind of, there's certain people who they're like, you do a certain thing and you look, you don't even have to add, you catch the look on their face and you know if things are in the zone. I also have a great producing partner in Bill Migliore, who I've known since we were actors in New York when we were 24, and he's a great actor too. And you know, you have your touch points, your people you trust. I felt that way when we were working on Primal Fear. By the time I knew the things Hawk had produced, been first AD on in his career, I actually, when we shot the last scene of Primal Fear, the last scene of the movie, there'd been a lot of debate about what the nature of the whole thing, how it should wind down, and we kind of improvised a lot of that, and there was certain, you could feel kind of the crusty old crew going, well, we'll be back in September to redo that, you know what I mean? There was a lot of talk about like, they don't know what they're doing, we're going to reshoot this, and I remember we shot it, and I was kind of like, you know, fuck all these guys. I looked at the back of the room, and Hawk was going, yes, that was it. And I was like, we got it. You know, there are people you trust.
Right.
And I think,
We drove around in a golf cart before you did that.
yes, I think, you know, Francis Coppola has a great line about directing that you know, the best thing about it, I think he said the best thing about filmmaking is it's collaborative, and the worst thing is that it's collaborative. But I actually think it's only the best thing. It's you, when you direct a movie, especially one like this, it's really, you're a lunatic. You're the person saying, we're going to make a 1950s period film, big scale, big car chases, 600 effect shots. We're going to do it for $25 million. We're going to have the best actors in the world. They're all going to work for scale. And anybody sane just runs. Like, they run away. They're like, this is going to be bloody. It's going to be horrible. He's an idiot. And then you get Dick Pope, you get Beth Mickle, you get, you know, Amy Roth, you get this cast, and suddenly what really happens is you get dozens of people who are themselves top shelf talents, and they're leveraging their talent against the problem set that you've created, and suddenly they're making it look like you know what you're doing. And it is a film is a layer cake of talent. If it works, it's people leveraging each other's talent right on up. And I think as a director, what you're really trying to do is create a frequency alignment so that everybody's working in the same aesthetic vein, and hopefully, of course, it's a good story and things like that. But half of directing is marshaling other people's talents into being 1 + 1 = 10. You know?
Well, with that in mind, I mean, because I've seen a lot of his work. I mean, Alec Baldwin. It was very interesting to see that here he has almost a kind of bow-legged walk that he's got going, and that's not his natural walk, but it's so much the character. And I thought, what a beautiful thing to bring into the project. I wondered, was that a discussion point, or was it something that you?
I love questions like this because the greatest thing about any good film is a prism that people see things through from whatever their perspective is. And the truth is, like, Alec had hip replacement surgery about 17 days before we shot. So I want to say that his character, that he thought about it, what's your spirit animal? He was a wounded bull. No, he had
Same thing happened. Sidney Pollack was telling me a story. Sidney Pollack, great director out of Africa, Tutsi.
Right. We worked with President together.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
But Sidney was always asked, why did you never shoot low on Streisand at the end of The Way We Were when she goes over to see Redford and they touch each other? Well, the truth was, we couldn't stop the traffic on 59th Street. So the only reason we shot up is because we could only shoot up, we couldn't shoot straight ahead.
He was the first assistant director on The Way We Were.
But it was, everybody said, oh, City is so smart.
Yeah, right.
I think that, sometimes you write a thing and you can get very hung up on the idea of an actor in your head. It can be a very dangerous bet because if you don't get that person,
Right.
you can get very hung up. And Alec, when I was thinking of like lethal capacity to seduce, lethal capacity to intimidate, New York to its core, old world heft, you start going like Alec Baldwin, it's like, I really have in my head.
You told me early on, before you ever got started, it was Bruce Willis and
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, and I think, you start having a videotape in your head of him saying, if someone wants to jack me, then the Dodgers can take it on the arches to the fucking coast, and you just go, I can't imagine anybody else saying that line better than him, or inhabiting it, and when you, same with Willem, when a lot of us moved to New York, Bobby and Cannavale and Mark Ruffalo and Sam Rockwell and Phil Hoffman, we were all in New York coming up, and Willem was the kind of actor we all wanted to be. He had a downtown New York theater company. He had stayed committed to it, even as he became, this great film actor and all these things. And it was like all of us were starting theater companies, and that's the kind of person you want to be. So when you get to work with someone like Willem, it's just tremendous. It's like a tremendous privilege and experience, and he has that. To me, I was like, well, who seems unhinged, but is moral at the core? Well, that's Willem,
Right.
It's like who's got a better crazy face than Willem?
Female lead, it's Gugu Mbatha-Raw. Mbatha-Raw, sorry. Well, she's so terrific, and I wanted to ask you just about your work with her on this, because she's least known to me. I mean, I see a lot of movies maybe I've seen her without noticing her before, but you've got to a very great molten moral core.
She's English. She was our only import, non-New York actor, and she. I had seen her in a number of things and was really struck by her, and I think that it's funny. It relates to Primal Fear. I think that there are times when I wanted Laura to be a figure of mystery. I wanted Laura to be someone who, like Lion, along with Lionel, you're leaning toward her to try to, you want to know more, and so Gugu is very well known, but not necessarily broadly known to a wide audience. And I thought there's that wonderful magic moment in an actor's career where you've seen, like, I knew she was going to be great, but you also knew that the audience would not know exactly what was coming, and that enhances what's going on in the story, which is the sense of discovery, his discovery of her. I knew a lot of audience would get to have that, and I think that's special. There's only honestly, in Primal Fear, I think that more than half of the reason it worked was because no one had ever heard me open my mouth, and the things that Deb is talking about and that Hawk is talking about, in truth, the fact that when it started, no one had any reason, no one had any context, no one had any reason to think that my voice was any other than that the story was real. And when there's no layer of artifice in a thing, it has a different kind of potency. I felt that way when Ralph Fiennes was in Schindler's List. Who will ever forget that performance? Because you were like, who in God's name is that? It's just scaring the living shit out of me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think those moments are exciting. I felt like, Bruce Willis is the opposite. You want someone who, the minute he turns the corner, you go, there's the coolest guy in the room.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be working for him.
Right.
I just want to be in his club, and that's how Lionel feels. You get it, you know what I mean?
Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday.
Yeah.
Who nobody knew who Audrey Hepburn was.
Yeah.
Dustin
and
the
Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, to get on to Primal Fear, we need to wrap. So I have one last question for each of you first. Hawk, this book of yours is so wonderful, and one of the great things about it is you talk about, in a way, it's a kind of self-search because you're trying to identify yourself apart from your father's giant name, and yet you're having the greatest run of luck in the world. You're lucking your way into self-discovery. I wonder, in thinking of looking back over your career, and you've got so many people here who are trying to get films made themselves. How would you articulate the key lesson in terms of that, that struggle?
Number one, show up. Show up for your friends, show up for your family, and most of all, show up for yourself. If you want to act, you can act. You don't have to be a movie star to act. If you want to direct, especially today, you've got your iPhone.
Yeah.
Direct, you want to produce, put a bunch of your friends together and come up with a story.
Yeah.
You want to write, same thing. Love what you do, and maybe somebody's going to see it. If it's a great idea, if it's a great piece of work, they're going to see it. But don't wait for somebody at a studio or some financer to all of a sudden give you the wherewithal to become. Edward was lucky, seriously. If he isn't there that day and Deb doesn't see him, who knows if Edward's ever discovered it? You don't know. So I'm just saying to everybody out there, especially today, you have every chance to write, produce, direct, act, be a cinematographer right now without having to go to a studio or finance. You can do it on your iPhone. And that's really the best advice I can give.
No, it's wonderful. And I think that in terms of that theme of discovery, was there a discovery you made on this particular picture, Edward, a surprise that was a great gift that you learned a lot by, that you take away to your next thing?
Sure. It's a good question. I mean, I'm always, you're always confronted with moments that diverge from what you had in your head or what you had planned. And there's a funny tension on this because we had to move. We really had to move. We really did not have a lot of time to indulge in a lot of takes. We were also shooting in New York on the streets, controlling extras in 50s clothing. You didn't have a lot of time. And I think when there's a virtue there, it's something I learned from Spike Lee making The 25th Hour, which he shot in 27 days. And when there's a real virtue. Spike has that. Wes Anderson has that. Alejandro Iñárritu has that. The vision, but planning like the Dirty Dozen. Donald Duck goes here, and I really admire that. I think filmmakers who make big, visionary, bold, artistic, cinematically rich films and aren't in any way hampered by limitations on resources and time. They working with people like that is like going to school, and it's a great year to be in. But when you run into a moment where those demands can make you tighten up creatively, they can make you they challenge the zen of dealing with what's actually in front of you, with what's actually happening. And in some ways, you can get into a kind of an analytical brain tightness that, as an actor, can really screw with the availability that you need to have to what's happening right in front of you. And I think that on this, there were a number of times when you talk about this cast, the cast helped me, really saved me, because sometimes I, as a director, as a producer, I was hitting this, I was slipping on, my feet were slipping under me because I was thinking, we're losing light, and I got this long walk and talk with Willem in the park, a lot of text, all these things, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe we really shouldn't do this. I shouldn't put him through this. I can't do this to Willem Dafoe. And he actually is looking at me like, let's give it a whirl. Like, what do you got to lose? Like, let's, and we ended up shooting it in a very different way than we planned. No tracks, steady cammed it, shot it almost without cutting. And suddenly you realize, like, you just go, why did I tighten up? Why was I on, we're not really in any dangerous situation. We're just making a movie. And fortunately, someone like Willem, was what I needed. He was that actor. He was available. He was using the pressure of the moment to drive urgency into the scene. You know what I mean? And I've done this a long time now. I've made like 40-something films. It's amazing how your brain, anxiety can tighten you up, and sometimes you just have to always remind yourself to stay open and take chances, take swings at things, and not be afraid.
You said something really important, which is most of these directors and most of the actors, prep is everything. Prep is everything. If you have a vision of what you want on the screen, whether you're the actor or you're the director or the cinematographer, if you've prepped it, then when something happens and you have to make a change, you're ready.
Yeah.
You're ready.
Right.
You can make that switch.
Right.
But if you are just waiting to see what's going to happen, a lot of times I've watched it just fall on its
And
face.
let me see this, because this relates to Hawk's book, which you should grab immediately. I think there's 3 memoirs. I would say my 3 favorite memoirs of making movies and films are Hawk's, Bob Evans' Kid Stays in the Picture, and Roger Corman's How I Made 100 Movies and Never Lost a Dime. Right? Those are
Wow, thanks, Edward.
no, seriously. I mean, Hawk's stories are so. I say this a lot. And I really mean it. Like, I retell Hawk's stories about making movies more than I tell movies about my own experiences making movies, because there are none better. He has the best stories about making movies of literally anyone I've ever met in the business, and I tell them as if I was there, because I've heard them so many times and they're so good. But actually, the value of reading for creative people, I think the value of reading the kinds of experiences that someone like Hawk has had in working with the people he's worked with, is that what I got in making my own films with Hawk, I got out of his stories before he had ever put them in a book. It's not just that it humanizes these legendary films, but it also makes you realize the degree to which the very best things that you've ever seen, the things that we all hold up as classics, which Hawk's worked on an extraordinary number of, they all feel half-baked. They all feel like they're on the cusp of failure at every moment. They have chaos, they have argument, they have friction, they have hilarity. And the irony is that these legendary stories, when someone like Hawk lets you inside of it, it demystifies these things that we in some ways we create legends around them, and it's enormously helpful. It was always enormously helpful to me to hear from him how these things really went. Because as a creative person, it makes it feel more doable, ironically. It makes it feel more like, hey, these were just people like us swinging hard at something, not entirely sure, chasing alchemy, and kind of like if they could get, if that's how it really was, then there's no reason not to try myself, you know. And I think that's why really good memoirs of the experience of a trade, and Hawks also deals with the experience of getting to know yourself through your love of the trade. It's really a value, especially young people who aspire to that, because there's sort of like it illuminates the actuality of how these things get done, and it's very special because not that many people, lots of people have made a lot of movies, but not that many people tell the stories well, and Hawk does them so well.
Well, we feel infinitely illuminated by your being here with us tonight with these two particular pictures. Thank you so much for being here.